"That is praise indeed from so skillful a workman," replied the Rainbow's Daughter, laughing and dancing in and out of the room. "Then it must be this boy you wish me to help," said Ku Klip, looking at Woot. "No," said Woot, "we are not here to seek your skill, but have come merely to you for information." Then, between them, they related their search for Nimmie Amee, whom the Tin Woodman explained he had resolved to marry, yet who had promised to become the bride of the Tin Soldier before he unfortunately became rusted, and when that story was told, they asked Ku Klip if he knew what had become of Nimmie Amee. "Not exactly," replied the old man, "but I know that she wept bitterly when the Tin Soldier did not come to marry her as he had promised to do. The old Witch was so provoked at the girl's tears that she beat Nimmie Amee with her crooked stick, and then hobbled away to gather some magic herbs, with which she intended to transform the girl into an old hag, so that no one would again love her or care to marry her. It was while she was away on this errand that Dorothy's house fell on the Wicked Witch, and she turned to dust and blew away. When I heard this good news, I sent Nimmie Amee to find the silver shoes which the Witch had worn, but Dorothy had taken with her to the Emerald City." "Yes, we know all about these silver shoes," said the Scarecrow. "Well," continued Ku Klip, "after that, Nimmie Amee decided to go away from the forest and live with some people she was acquainted with who had a house on Mount Munch. I have never seen the girl since." "Do you know the name of the people on Mount Munch with whom she went to live?" asked the Tin Woodman. "No, Nimmie Amee did not mention her friend's name, and I did not ask her. She took with her all that she could carry of the goods that were in the Witch's house, and she told me that I could have the rest. But when I went there I found nothing worth taking, except some magic powders that I did not know how to use, and a bottle of magic glue." "What is magic glue?" asked Woot. "It is a magic preparation with which to mend people when they cut themselves. One time, long ago, I cut off one of my fingers by accident, and I carried it to the Witch, who took down her bottle and glued it on again for me. See," showing them his finger, "it is as good as it ever was. No one else that I ever heard of had this magic glue, and of course when Nick Chopper cut himself to pieces with his enchanted axe and Captain Fyter cut himself to pieces with his enchanted sword, the Witch would not mend them or allow me to glue them together because she had herself wickedly enchanted the axe and sword. Nothing remained but for me to make them new parts out of tin. But, as you see, tin bodies are a great improvement on their meat bodies." "Very true," said the Tin Soldier. "I quite agree with you," said the Tin Woodman. "I happened to find my old head in your cupboard a while ago, and certainly it is not as desirable a head as the tin one I now wear." "By the way," said the Tin Soldier, "whatever became of my old head, Ku Klip?" "And of the different parts of our bodies," added the Tin Woodman. "Let me think a minute," replied Ku Klip. "If I remember right, you two boys used to bring me most of your parts when they were cut off, and I saved them in that barrel in the corner. You must not have brought me all the parts, for when I made Chopfyt I had hard work finding enough pieces to complete the job. I finally had to finish him with one arm." "Who is Chopfyt?" inquired Woot. "Oh, haven't I told you about Chopfyt?" exclaimed Ku Klip. "Of course not, and he's quite a curiosity, too. You'll be interested in hearing about Chopfyt. This is how he happened. One day, after the Witch had been destroyed and Nimmie Amee had gone to live with her friends on Mount Munch, I was looking around the shop for something and came upon the bottle of magic glue which I had brought from the old Witch's house. It occurred to me to piece together the odds and ends of you two people, which of course were just as good as ever, and see if I couldn't make a man out of them. If I succeeded, I would have an assistant to help me with my work, and I thought it would be a clever idea to put to some practical use the scraps of Nick Chopper and Captain Fighter. There were two perfectly good heads in my cupboard, and a lot of feet and legs and parts of bodies in the barrel, so I set to work to see what I could do. First, I pieced together a body, gluing it with the witch's magic glue, which worked perfectly. That was the hardest part of my job, however, because the bodies didn't match up well and some parts were missing. But by using a piece of Captain Fighter here and a piece of Nick Chopper there, I finally got together a very decent body, with heart and all the trimmings complete. "Whose heart did you use in making?" asked the Tin Woodman anxiously. "The body? I can't tell, for the parts had no tags on them, and one heart looks much like another. After the body was completed, I glued two fine legs and feet onto it. One leg was Nick Chopper's and one was Captain Fighter's, and finding one leg longer than the other, I trimmed it down to make them match. I was much disappointed to find that I had but one arm. There was an extra leg in the barrel, but I could find only one arm. Having glued this onto the body, I was ready for the head, which I had some difficulty in making up my mind which head to use. Finally, I shut my eyes and reached out my hand toward the cupboard shelf, and the first head I touched I glued upon my new man. "It was mine," declared the Tin Soldier gloomily. "No, it was mine," asserted the Cooklet, "for I had given you another in exchange for it, the beautiful tin head you now wear. When the glue had dried, my man was quite an interesting fellow. I named him Chopbite, using part of Nick Chopper's name and a part of Captain Fighter's name, because he was a mixture of both of your cast-off parts. Chopbite was interesting, as I said, but he did not prove a very agreeable companion. He complained bitterly because I had given him but one arm, as if it were my fault, and he grumbled because the suit of blue Munchkin clothes which I got from a neighbor did not fit him perfectly." "Ah, that was because he was wearing my old head," remarked the Tin Soldier. "I remember that head used to be very particular about its clothes." "As an assistant," the old tinsmith continued, "Chopbite was not a success. He was awkward with tools and was always hungry. He demanded something to eat 6 or 8 times a day, so I wondered if I had fitted his insides properly. Indeed, Chopbite ate so much that little food was left for myself, so when he proposed one day to go out into the world and seek adventure, I was delighted to be rid of him. I even made him a tin arm to take the place of the missing one. That pleased him very much, so that we parted good friends." "What became of Chopbite after that?" the Scarecrow inquired. "I had never heard. He started off towards the east, into the plains of the Munchkin country, and that was the last I ever saw of him." "Seems to me," said the Tin Woodman reflectively, "that you did wrong in making a man out of our cast-off parts. It is evident that Chopbite could, with justice, claim relationship with both of us." "Do not worry about that," advised Ku Klip cheerfully. "It is not likely that you will ever meet the fellow, and if you should meet him, he doesn't know who he is made of, for I never told him the secret of his manufacture. Indeed, you are the only ones who know of it, and you may keep the secret to yourselves if you wish to." "Never mind Chopbite," said the Scarecrow. "Our business now is to find poor Nimmie Amee and let her choose her tin husband. To do that, it seems, from the information Ku Klip has given us, we must travel to Mount Much." "If that's the programme, let us start